40 million.
All
And
right, it's starting a
before
little
that
late because I was
was
doing some work.
similar numbers in the
But of course, Trump is
400s,
talking about all the
300s,
money that we
and
give versus the
sometimes
money
even in the
that China gives to
500s of millions of
WHO, and
dollars.
with Trump's
And
threat to
China will
defund the
do
WHO
proportionally just a
in the
small
middle of a
fraction of
pandemic.
that number. And I think they have to get their priorities right. And their priorities are that everybody has to be treated properly, every country. And it doesn't seem that way, does it? It doesn't seem
Donald
that
Trump
way.
needs to
So
say
we're going to
exactly
do
what he believes is
study,
being
investigation,
treated
and we're going to make a
properly,
determination as
other
to what
than
we're doing.
kissing his
In the meantime,
ass.
we're holding back. We want to say very unfair. So the United States, $452 million compared to $42 million. That's to the World Health Organization. That's not good. That's not good. Not
It
fair.
needs to be done.
Not fair at all. And other
Life
countries,
isn't
as you know,
fair.
also
If
gave
life
us
was fair, we wouldn't have
extensions
President
in the
Donald
United
Trump.
States. And the World WHO, World Health, got it wrong.
The World
They got it
WHO,
very
the
wrong.
WWHO, is it like a wrestling organization?
They also minimized the threat very strongly. And
You minimized the threat. You said the 9 cases would disappear as if it was a miracle.
nation to the Americans who go to work every day, especially in these critical industries in the midst of the pandemic, to care for and protect and feed American people, including medical personnel, law enforcement, first responders, food suppliers, sanitation workers. And somebody mentioned today, would you please specifically call out cashiers and clerks at grocery stores who are in danger during the pandemic, during the epidemic.
Maybe their wages should go up because they're essential people. They're needed people to help these businesses make profits and to help the country survive.
We grew up with cashiers and clerks.
You didn't grow up with anybody like that.
They've been great, and
You're a liar.
True American heroes. I want to call them out because they're working hard and they're working.
So you're going to call out all of the cashiers in the country?
Ideal again, as we mourn the terrible loss of life for this and from this grave pandemic. We're seeing signs that our aggressive strategy to slow the spread is working. The number of new cases.
We've had the deadliest day ever, but you know,
necessary in so many
at least for the country.
Watching this morning, New York. I was watching Louisiana. You see what's going on. The numbers are changing, and they're changing rapidly, and soon we'll be over that curve.
Some places will. Doesn't necessarily mean every place is going to be. Other places might reach the hump later.
Some terrible days ahead, but we're going to have some wonderful days ahead.
Yeah, more diabetes.
Behind us, this terrible thing behind us. Some people will never be able to forget if they had a loved one, if they had a great friend or a friend. But we're going to get it behind us. This is a tribute to the discipline and the devotion of the American people, what we've accomplished. If every American continues to strictly adhere to social distancing guidelines, we can defeat the invisible enemy and save countless lives.
How about making it more than a little bit more than guidelines? Be a little more stern with what needs to be done.
Heading toward a final stretch, the light at the end of the tunnel, as I was saying.
Sometimes the light at the end of the tunnel is a train.
Medical war to defeat the virus. We're also fighting an economic war to ensure we can quickly turn to full financial strength. We have to get our country back. We have to get going. Everybody wants to get going. Yesterday, I asked Congress to provide an additional $250 billion to expand the incredibly successful Paycheck Protection Program. You've seen what's gone on there. It's incredible, actually.
I can't access it yet, so that's not
businesses
incredible. Not for me yet, at least.
for the opening.
It might look good for me in the future, potentially, hopefully,
To protect
but
millions of American jobs, I'm
not
asking Congress
available
to
for me at
pass
the moment.
additional funding for this program this week as soon as possible. And I think we have pretty good understanding with the Democrats. Hopefully it's going to be bipartisan. We do not have time for the partisan games.
Then don't put anything partisan in the bill, Republicans.
Or totally unrelated agendas. We want to do this for the small businesses and the workers.
Then do it for the small businesses and the workers. Put them separate. Nothing else. Small businesses, workers. Easy enough. Blame the Republicans when they insist on inserting more things, like, you know, defunding Planned Parenthood and crap like that. Because watch.
Thousands of loans to small businesses. it's a great thing to see. It's turned out to be more successful and more productive than anybody would have thought. But Democrats and Republicans are coming together to get that job done. That's a very important job. In recent days and days ahead, we'll restore America's health and economic might, but also dimensions of our national strength will be brought together, I think, I think we have a chance to be stronger than ever before. We've learned a lot.
You're going to brag about it as people die. You're going to brag about how wonderfully we did when people died, when you said that this would disappear.
So we can rebuild our roads,
like a miracle.
And bridges and tunnels and all of the things that we should be doing for our country. We're going to rebuild our country, not other countries where they don't even appreciate it. As our citizens persevere through this present challenge, we're renewing American unity, and we're replenishing American will, and we are witnessing new American valor each and every day. We see it every day. The daring and determination of our people in this crisis reminds us that no matter how hard it gets, no matter what obstacles we must overcome, Americans will keep on fighting to victory, and we will secure the glorious future that our citizens so richly deserve, especially after going through this nightmare, this evil beast. So we're getting very close, and hopefully it will. Hopefully it's on the other side, and it will end soon. And I think it will. And I just think that the people of this country are fantastic. So we'll take a few questions, and then Vice President will take over. Please go ahead. Please.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. ABC is reporting that your intelligence community was warning about the virus as early as November and produced a detailed report about the outbreak in China. When did you first learn about the intelligence, and could you have acted on it then?
Well, I learned when I learned about the gravity of it was sometime just prior to closing the country to China. And when we closed up the flights coming in from China and various other elements, and then, as you know, we closed up to Europe. So I don't know exactly, but I'd like to see the information. Yeah, please.
President, a lot of Americans want to see businesses reopen.
Yeah,
get back
so
to
do
work.
I, more than anybody.
So what specifically has to happen for you to feel that it's safe to reopen the country, and what is your plan?
The miracle has to happen. More hydroxychloroquine.
That slope and heading to a very strong direction that this thing is gone. Now, we could do it in phases. We can go to some areas, which you know, some areas are much less affected than others. But it would be nice to be able to open with a big bang and open up our country, or certainly most of our country, and I think we're going to do that soon. You look at what's happening. I would say we're ahead of schedule. Now, you hate to say it too loudly because all of a sudden things don't happen, but I think we will be sooner rather than later. But we'll be sitting down with the professionals. We'll be sitting down with many different people making a determination, and those meetings will start taking place fairly soon.
Until the health experts tell you it's safe to do it?
Yeah, I would rely very heavily on them.
Heavily, not completely, but heavily.
Testing that you're looking at.
Yeah, we're putting in very heavy testing systems. We have the best testing systems. And again, don't forget
Diabetes, more sugar coating.
I'm not going to more than anybody by far. And our testing's become, I think it'll end up being a big strength. In fact, the other countries that the media talked about are now calling us for what are we doing and how are we doing it so quickly, and where are we getting these tests, because our tests are really good now. They've been proven to be very accurate.
We're still third.
Thank you, President.
Not first.
Two quick questions.
Yeah, sure.
One on infrastructure. Members of your administration and members of Congress have pointed out the top paid federal employee, it's not the president, it's the head of the Tennessee Valley Authority, and he made $8 million last year.
It's ridiculous. I agree. It's ridiculous. I think it's the highest paid government. Long before I got here, you said Tennessee Valley Authority, right? Has to be the highest paid man in any government. Makes approximately $8 or $9 million. I don't know the gentleman, but he's got a heck of a job. He gets paid a lot of money. He's been there for a long while, hasn't he?
He's new, came in April, but the previous
Well,
one
that's
was-
that's separate. But I'm talking about we just have some new people going on the board, I know. But as you know, that's a quasi-public agency, and whoever the head of the agency is, that person makes a lot of money.
Question.
Which is an amazing thing, right? And when we want them to do something, they're not there for us. That's not good. That's not good.
second
They've been there
question,
for a long time. That's been a story for a long time.
I assume that you would support reducing that salary as part of the infrastructure bill.
Yeah, reducing it by a lot.
But as
My
part
other
of the
question
bill,
is,
are you going to put in a poison pill in there, or are people going to fight it or whatever? Are you just going to do the bill just
It is
workers,
somebody authority.
small businesses?
So
I've been waiting for somebody to ask me about that. It's been bothering me for a long time too. Go ahead.
One of the biggest rating hits of the coronavirus, aside from these briefings, has been a show on Netflix called Tiger King.
Yeah.
And the man
Why
who's the star of this
are
is a
you
former
bringing
swimmer
up
who's serving a 22-year prison sentence.
Tiger
He's asking
King in
for a
this
pardon, saying he was unfairly
press
convicted.
conference?
Your son yesterday
What?
jokingly said that he was going to advocate for it, and I was wondering if you've seen the show.
What?
If you have any thoughts on pardoning Joe Exotic?
Which son? Must be Don. I had a feeling it was Don. Is that what he said? I don't know. I know nothing about it. He has 22 years for what? What did he do?
Allegedly hired someone to murder an animal rights activist, but he said that he didn't do that, and he was.
You think he didn't do it? Are you on his side?
I'm
Are
a
you
reporter, I shouldn't take sides.
recommending a pardon?
No, I'm not advocating
As a
anything.
reporter, you're not allowed to do that. You'd be criticized by these. Would you recommend a pardon?
Oh my God.
I don't think you would. I don't think you would. Go ahead. You have a question? I'll take a look. Is that Joe Exotic? That's Joe Exotic. Go ahead.
The coronavirus, if I can, Mr. President.
Yeah.
Last week, your top experts were saying that we should expect 100,000 to 240,000 deaths in this country. You've been talking about how it looks like maybe.
So I'm
things will
shocked they're bringing
plateau.
up Tiger King
Are
at the
these
damn press
numbers now being
conference.
revised downward?
Hello, all you cool cats and kittens.
Social distancing and that sort of thing, but what can you tell us about the numbers? Are they
I
being
mean,
revised?
my impression, Jim, is those were the numbers that were set, and they were set as an expectation from quite a while ago. I think we're just doing much better than those numbers. If either of you would like to talk about that, it's a fair question. You want to come up, Deborah?
Yeah, so I think many of you have done the analysis of the same models that we utilized, and if you do the models of the models, you end up with that range. At the same time, we carefully looked at Italy and Spain, and we are doing much better in many cases than several other countries, and we're trying to understand that. We believe that our healthcare delivery system in the United States is quite extraordinary. I know many of you are watching the Act Now model and the IHME model and they have consistently decreased the mortality from over almost 90,000 or 86,000 down to 81,000 and now down to 61,000. That is modeled on what America is doing. That's what's happening. And I think what has been so remarkable, I think, to those of us who have been in the science fields for so long is how important behavioral change is and how amazing Americans are in adapting to and following through on these behavioral changes. And that's what's changing the rate of new cases, and that's what will change the mortality going forward, because now we're into the time period of full mitigation that should be reflected within the coming weeks of decreasing mortality. I mean, that's what we really hope to see. We are impressed by the American people, and I think models are models. I've always worked on validating. I spent my life validating models all over the world, and that's why we do surveys and surveillance, and we make sure that what we think is right is right. I think this will change how people look at respiratory diseases, because it will change what is possible when the globe, and particularly the American people, do this level of mitigation. And I think, as I talked about yesterday, we are still in awe, really, of the American people's strength in this and following through.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to ask Bob to come up just for a second. Director, I think that's it. We've done, they have done, everybody has done, everybody a great job. So those were original projections, and we don't want to say anything about beating it yet, but I think we will have a very good chance to beat them.
I don't want to say about beating it yet, but I think we're going to beat it yet. What?
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to add to
Dumbest
what
president
Ambassador
ever.
Mark said. I mean, this is a consequence of the commitment of the American people. You know, a lot of us have always had challenges changing behavior, whether if it's exercising regularly or different habits with smoking. When it affects us, what's been remarkable to watch here is how the American public has changed their behavior when it protects the vulnerable. I think that's really what I'm so proud to see.
Mr. President, just a follow-up on something from yesterday, and a quick, just yes or no question. Yesterday, you said you had not seen Peter Navarro's memo on coronavirus back in January, February 23rd. Were you ever briefed on those memos? Did you ever discuss those memos with anybody?
I don't remember that. I've now seen the memo. I saw it. It was Peter sends a lot of memos. I didn't see the memo. As you know, World Health was saying that was.
He sends the most memos, just like our testing.
But I didn't see the memo. But I acted as quickly as people were shocked that I acted so quickly, and everybody thought I was wrong because I did act so quickly, as you know, with respect to closing the borders, with respect not only to China but with Europe. I closed the borders, and I think that was very important. But no, I didn't see the memo.
But then you also thought that you didn't do anything else.
Wait a minute, let me
The
go
other
to-
things that you needed to do.
The World Health Organization today warned against politicizing.
I agree with that.
He said that the consequence of this politicization could actually create more body bags. It's a pretty vivid image. I mean, what do you believe the consequences of the U.S. pulling out its funding of the WHO?
Well, I think when you say more body bags, I think we would have done, and he would have been much better serving the people that he's supposed to serve if they gave a
The
correct
world?
analysis. I mean, everything was, I said, China-centric. Everything was going to be fine, no human to human, keep the borders open. He wanted me to keep the borders open. I closed the borders despite him, and that was a hard decision to make at the time. We were all together. We made
And
a
people still
decision
came through the
against
borders, so you didn't really close the
World
borders.
Health Organization.
You didn't really
So
close
when
the
he
borders.
says politicizing, he's politicizing. That shouldn't be. But look, we spend
It's
$450 billion.
call back the
$452
no
billion,
puppet, no puppet, you're the
almost
puppet.
$500 billion
You're a
last
towel.
year, hundreds of billions in previous years. And
If you don't get the South Park reference, it's from South
they
Park.
got to do better than that. They got to do better. When you talk about politics, I can't believe he's talking about politics when look at the relationship they have to China. So China spends $42 million, we spend $450 million, and everything seems to be China's way. That's not right. It's not fair to us, and honestly, it's not fair to the world. Okay, question in the back? Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. President. There's breaking news today, a couple of reports from a couple different outlets that Jared Kushner's team is seeking to create a national coronavirus database, a tracking system for patients who've been diagnosed. Now, his spokesperson said that that's not true.
Yeah, it's not. I have never heard about it. Doesn't sound like a bad idea, actually, but I have not. heard about it.
I haven't heard about it. Doesn't sound like a
I don't
bad
know,
idea.
Okay, I have to see it, but it sounds very scientific, and it sounds like it could be good based on tracking, but it also has to do with rights and lots of different constitutional questions. I have not heard that at all.
So some people are concerned it would be like the post 9/11 Patriot Act, that it ultimately led to the FISA abuse. Are you concerned
FISA
about
abuse,
that?
of which I was the one abused, and a couple of other people, in all fairness. No, I don't know anything about it. I haven't heard it. I mean, I'll speak to them. I don't think so. They would have told me. I would have known about it. Please.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Nevada delegation is unhappy because smaller casinos and businesses that make profit
In Nevada.
from gaming in Nevada found out they're not eligible for the CARES Act PPP money. Is this, and I talked to one member who said
You mean
gaming,
because of the number of employees?
No, because it's gambling.
And yet they're small businesses.
and they thought gaming would not be treated any differently than any other business with this. Was this
Well,
an
I could look
oversight?
at that. I could look. It's a great state, and I will take a look at that strongly. Are you talking only the smaller casinos?
That's,
Yeah, I'll take a look at that. Fine. I don't mind that. Please. Yeah, we'll take a look. Yeah, we haven't heard. Nobody's told me about it, but I'll look at it. It's a great state. They do a great job, so I'm going to look at it very strongly.
If they were in a great state, you still wouldn't look at it?
Thank you, Mr. President. In terms of the economy, what if you urge Americans to go back to work and they don't listen to you? Would you leave that up to the governors, to businesses, to citizens to decide when it's safe to stop social distancing?
Well, when you say they don't listen, I think they're going to listen. They want to go back. Everybody wants. They're going stir crazy. They've been in those houses and those apartments, and they've really been. They've done a great job. Again, when you look, the question was just asked about, about how are we doing compared to projections? Those were just original projections. The big projection being 2.2 million people would die if we did nothing. That was another decision we made. Close it up. That was a big decision that we made. Two very smart people walked into my office and they said, listen, these are your alternatives. And that was a projection of, I guess, 1.5 to 2.2 million people would die if we didn't close it up. It's a lot of people. So if we do a number that's tremendously smaller than that, now if we did close it up, the numbers got to 100 to 220 million people. So if we
220 million?
Substantially under the 100, which was the original projection, I think we all did a very good job.
Not 2.2 million? Not two.
Track for that by May 1st.
Well, right now, we're doing well in terms of the numbers. I can't tell you in terms of the date. We don't want to go down.
Well, maybe somebody has gotten through to him.
So we have to be careful. As far as distancing, social distancing, and other things, certainly for a while, at some point that's going away. We'll be able to sit next to each other and like we have all our lives. This is a very unique thing. This has not happened anything like this of this magnitude since 1917, 1918. The great pandemic. That was something. But people want to sit next to each other at restaurants. They want to sit next to each other like normal at a football game, baseball game, basketball game, hockey game. No, we want to go back to life. Now, the first period of time, maybe we'll go a little bit slower, and maybe we'll be talking about distancing. But at some point, we expect to be back like it was before. And hopefully, it'll never happen. Hopefully, it will. If it does happen, it's going to be in 100 years from now. The last one, 1917. That's something. It's a long time ago, and that was a horrible thing. Jim, go ahead.
Yeah, to get back to something you were saying yesterday about people going to Wisconsin and voting in the middle of this pandemic.
Bring up the mail voting
really
again.
Putting their lives on the line, and you said, well, if they do that, vote by mail, perhaps we'll have voter fraud in this country. I just wanted to ask you, voters in 5 states, Utah, Colorado, Hawaii, Washington, and Oregon, all vote by mail. Can you or the White House staff or your campaign provide any evidence to back up your claim that mail-in voting is with fraud, like the example you gave of people filling out false ballots?
Good question.
Well, what happened?
Since the beginning of this administration.
Very fair.
And where's the evidence?
I think there's a lot of evidence, but we'll provide you with some. Okay. And
Some.
There's evidence that's being compiled, just like it's being compiled in the state of California, where they settled with Judicial Watch, saying that 1 million people should not have been voting. And you saw that?
Registering to voting is not the same thing as casting a ballot.
In the great state of California, they settled, and we could have gone a lot further. Judicial Watch settled where they agreed that 1 million people should not have voted, where they were 115 years old and lots of things, and people were voting in their place. What I see, and every one of those states that you mentioned is a state that happens to be won by the Democrats.
Utah?
And
Did he say Utah?
You have a position like me where it's registered, you're here, and we're voting someplace where I'm not. I haven't left the White House in, I guess, months, other than to
go golf.
Wave it goodbye to New York, which, by the way, is now going, as you know, being used for the purpose that we're talking about, which a lot of people wanted. Wait a minute.
Voting doesn't work out well for the Republicans.
Well,
So
it hasn't.
Isn't your concern
It
really
certainly
just
hasn't.
political?
But if you're a senior citizen and if you're somebody that needs it, I'm all for it. But they have to be very careful, because the things with bundling and all of the things that are happening with votes by mail, where thousands of votes are gathered, and I'm not going to say which party does it, but thousands of votes are gathered and they come in and they're dumped in a location, and then all of a sudden you lose elections that you think you're going to win. I won't stand for it. Well, we're going to find out about the proof, because you're going to see what's going on. And
We're going to find out. And if the proof doesn't happen,
our voting system,
I'm sure he's not going to do anything about it either.
Voter ID. When you vote, you should have voter ID. And if you send something in, you should be sure as a
And voter ID laws should only be about voter IDs and not other things like restricting means of voting.
Fraudulently, because there's a lot of fraudulent voting going on in this country. This country should have
Not true.
voter ID. Okay, let's do another one. Go, please.
Mr. President,
Thank you.
currently the only distributed across the country is
Yeah.
through the eHealth data system. How systematically is your task force watching the system?
Well, I think it's very systematic. Yeah, we're distributing the.
It's the most systematic
I think
ever.
all through the country, it's being distributed in large amounts. We have it coming in now. We were up to 29 million doses. Then we went to 30 million doses. But
And then we went to 31 million doses, and then 32.
Much being distributed
I learned how to
is
count. Look at that.
what we have in our stockpile. And again, it's had, I hope it works. Again, I'm not a doctor, as you possibly have found out. I'm not a doctor, but I'm a person with common sense. And
No, you're
we've
not.
had some
No, you're not.
results over the course.
I'm not gonna say it's a lie because you probably believe it true, but you're not.
I think no. We're looking to provide it in many different ways. In many ways, we're in certain instances we've been asked. In the case of Michigan, we've been asked who the governor of Michigan would like to. I think she's become a big fan of it.
That woman
as
of
a
from
medication,
Michigan.
as something that's going to help with this horrible virus. And we're delivering it to the governments of various states when they ask. So certain states are asking, certain governments are asking, and we're delivering it directly to the government. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We know many people around the world are paying close attention to this
Yes.
press conference. So
Yes.
on behalf of
Good. Where are you
foreign
from?
media,
Where are you from?
I'm from Taiwan.
Good.
Yes. On behalf of Foreign Media Group, I'd like to ask you two questions. First question is that the French President Macron called Iranian President Rouhani and say the Europe has started to ship the medical goods to Iran. Will you consider
Medical goods?
Yes.
That doesn't bother me.
Yeah. So will you think
If they're sending medical goods to Iran, it doesn't bother me. Okay.
Yeah, so the other question is that the world also paying attention to the U.S. election. So we are also, we know that Bernie Sanders has dropped out
I
today.
did see that today.
Yeah.
Well, he didn't really drop out.
He's suspended.
He didn't really. What about his delegates? I mean, he said he's going to keep his delegates, and which is sort of interesting. He's going to keep his delegates, and he'd like to get more. Now, is he dropping out or not? That's not dropping out. When you keep your delegates, and then you want more delegates before you get to the convention, that's a weird deal going on there. I don't know what's happening. And I don't know why President Obama hasn't supported Joe Biden a long time ago.
Because Joe Biden
Something
asked him to
feels
not
wrong.
do it.
Why isn't he come
Joe
out and
Biden
talk
asked him
about
to
it?
not do it. That's why.
He certainly doesn't want to see me for 4 more years. We're not. We think a little bit.
No, most of us don't.
You know what? I'll tell you. It does amaze me that President Obama hasn't supported Sleepy Joe. It just hasn't happened. When's it going to happen? When is it going to happen? Why isn't it? He knows something that you don't know.
I'm sure that's it.
But you don't know.
Sure, that's
It'll be
it.
interesting.
Or
But
not.
Bernie, I saw his.
$3.
Oh, that's good. Finally, somebody knows something when they ask a question.
What is your message to them ahead of their meeting tomorrow? Will the U.S. consider a coordinated cut of production here?
I don't think. Look, we already cut. We're like very market oriented. If you look at Texas and
We're market oriented. We support artificially reducing markets.
States that do this very well, they've already cut way back. They cut back automatically. But in the case of Russia, in the case of Saudi Arabia, they increased production at a time when you didn't need it, and then they got hit by the virus, which knocked out 40% of the market, and now they're flooded with oil. Look, I just say this. You have two countries that are getting hurt very badly. Russia's getting hurt. That's their primary source. And Saudi Arabia, that's definitely their primary source. And it doesn't make sense that they flooded the market for whatever reason they did that for themselves. It's an argument that they had. And I think they'll straighten it out. A lot of progress has been made over the last week. And it'll be interesting to see what comes out of OPEC tomorrow. But OPEC, obviously, for many years I used to think OPEC was very unfair. I hated OPEC. You want to know the truth? I hated it. Because it was a fix. But somewhere along the line that broke down. And it went the opposite way. And we have a tremendously powerful energy industry.
I invested in it, and that's why I started loving it.
In the world. And I don't want those jobs being lost. Okay?
Just one follow-up to that, sir. What will you do if they don't end up cutting?
We'll see. I have a lot of options. Please. Got a lot of good options, Jeff. Beauties. I might like it even more. Now you'll watch. Let's see what happens. Hopefully they can make a deal. Let's go.
Thank you, Mr. President. Clearly, Americans are getting very anxious to go back to work.
I
You're
agree.
sounding optimistic.
Including me.
Still very vague. Now that the IMHE model specifically has been adjusted down to 61,000, when are we going to open back up? Can you give us a better date? Is it going to be April 30th, May 1st?
You said adjusted back down 61,000. What was adjusted back down?
The IMHE model, the one that originally predicted like between 100 and 200,000.
Yeah, go ahead. Well, it's still a big number, right? 61, right? That's a big number. Go ahead.
But can you give us a more specific date? Will it be
No, why-
May 1st?
I had a date, and I thought it was a very aspirational date. It's turning out to be very interesting because a lot of good things are happening by Easter. But I had a very aspirational date.
Yeah,
I didn't
you're an
think we
ass.
would make it. I didn't say we would do it by Easter, but I said, well, wouldn't that be great to shoot for?
Because it's a beautiful day. But the date is beautiful. That's why I picked it. No other reason.
People like me, and like some of you in the room, maybe all of you in the room, frankly. But Easter is a very important day, so I had aspirationally, I said, let's see if we can do it at Easter. You know, but I said it would be very tough, and I was criticized for that. So I don't like giving dates. And that wasn't a date. That was just an aspiration. That would have been incredible.
There wasn't a date.
But I don't
April
even know if
12th
we're
isn't a
very
date.
behind.
Everybody,
Some of these
newsflash.
models are
Dun
looking like
dun.
Easter is going to be a very important date anyway because of the curve. It's hitting the top and it's starting to.
But
come
this
down.
week and next week is going to be bad weeks. So
Person
everyone has said.
Easter is looking like a good time. So a good time for that, for heading down. So we'll see what happens. Look, there's no reason to do that. We have a lot of good things happening. When I spoke to the governor of Louisiana today, he said, Tony, they need far less beds than they need. I said, well, good, because we're building 1,000-room additional. We built them 1,000 the beds, and now we're building another 1,000. And I said, listen, is there a way that we don't build? I don't want to build them if they don't need them. In New York, the Javits isn't too heavily used. It's ready to go. 2,900 beds. Plus, we now have the ship set for COVID if they want to use it, and we're using it for Governor Murphy in New Jersey. So we'll see what happens. But you know, the numbers are coming way down. The ventilators, we're all set. We have a lot to go if we want, but I'm not getting calls where they need ventilators anymore. So we were right on those ventilators. I'd love to have additional ventilators for some of the countries that are our allies and our friends. And even if they're not our allies and our friends, you're saving human lives. But I'd love to see if we had some. I mean, we're making a lot of ventilators right now. We have and they take a while to make, and they're very expensive, and they're very complex to make. But I'd love to be able to help other countries once we're taken care of. But I just sent 100 ventilators to Colorado, and that was great. A senator there who's a terrific senator, Cory
No,
Gardner.
that's
And he
false.
called me last night, he said, could you get 100 ventilators for Colorado? And we just sent them out, and they'll be there very shortly. So, but it looks like we're in great shape from the bed standpoint. It looks like we're in great shape from the ventilator standpoint. And you just heard I ordered 500 million masks, 500 N95s and others, and surgical. But we ordered 500 million masks, 300 and 200.
Million.
And they're going to be here very shortly. So we're really in great shape. And we started off with an empty cupboard. So I'm going to leave the vice president and his group to handle it, and I will see you probably tomorrow.
Again, more of the same, but, you know, I wanted to just, I mean, we did hear the Tiger King question being asked by that idiot, a member of the media. There's no reason to have asked that. That's ridiculous. Other member of the media, I don't know who that person was who was trying to insist on a date. We've already learned that trying to set down a specific date is not a good thing. You can't do better. It's better to err on the side of caution. Patience is what the better part of virtue, or whatever. You know, you can't rush this. Better to be too slow than to be too quick. So, again, and April 12th isn't a date. That's what we learned today as well, apparently. So anyway, and subscribe to the channel, like the video, follow me at facebook.com/liberaldan and at liberaldanradio on Twitter. Tune in tonight, or by the time this uploads, it probably will be past the podcast. But remember, tune in Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Central on Blog Talk Radio for Liberal Dan Radio. Talk from the left, that's right. And stay distant, stay safe, stay healthy.